Alright, so now that we have our HTML user interface, now it's time to add our database, and we'll create our index file. Well, we did create it, but we'll actually add code to the index file, which is what we're viewing right now, and also our database class, and maybe some other things. With this application, this is basically what's called a SPA, or an SPA, which stands for single page access. And I say that because the only file that we're gonna go to in the browser is the index file, which this is. We do have other files, add contact, delete contacts, but these aren't display files. We're not going to actually visit them. They're basically for processing. All right. Since we're using Ajax, we're loading everything dynamically using jQuery and Ajax. So that's pretty much it as far as visiting certain pages on our application. Everything will be fed through the index file, and then for our database, we're only going to have one table called contacts. All right, and that's pretty much all we need. So I'm in PHP MyAdmin, and I'm going to set up a database called address book. Okay, so if we visit that, and we're going to have one table called contacts. Okay, it's one table. It's pretty big though. We're going to have 13 fields in this table. Alright, so of course we need an ID for a primary key. The length we'll give 11. It's going to be auto increment. It's going to be the primary key. Alright, so next we'll have our contact's first name, which will be varchar, and that'll be, probably make all of these 100. Last name, okay, we want to use the contact's email. And phone number. We'll make that 50. Address 1. Address 2. Okay, then we need our city, state, zip code, 30 there, and then notes. Notes is going to be a text field. Whoop. And let's see, we want contact group. So this will be like family, friends, something like that. We'll say 100, and then we want the date added, which is going to be a timestamp, and it's going to have a default of current timestamp. Okay, so that's our table. Let's create that. Okay, now I'm going to insert some sample data in here, just a few contacts. So I'm going to write a query to do that. I'm going to go to SQL. Actually, I'm going to make sure I'm on the address book and then go to SQL, and I'm going to paste this in, and I'm going to include this little snippet here in your program file so that you can use it as well. It's just quicker than adding everything by hand. Alright, so let's say go. Now if we go to address book, browse contacts, you can see that now we have 4 contacts. Okay, so back to our application. The first thing I want to do is our configuration file. Let me browse to my app in here. Let's see, address book. Alright, so in my config folder, I want my config file, and we're just going to define our database parameters. Okay, so these are going to be constants, so we're going to use define. We'll say db host. That's going to be localhost. Okay, next we have db user. db password or db pass. And then the db name. Alright, that looks good. That's all we need here for now, so I'm going to close that out. Alright, now I want to go to my libraries and database. And this class is identical to the one we used a few projects back. It's the PDO class. Okay, so we're defining our class credentials here coming from the constants that we just created in the config file. Okay, then we have a database handler, an error, and a statement property. Alright, this is just connecting using the DSN, putting in our attributes. We create the instance right here, and then our query, which is going to execute a statement. Our bind function, so we can bind values to parameters. Okay, execute, result set, single. We can count rows with row count. Transactions, although we're not going to really be using transactions, but it's just a well-rounded, simple PDO class. So I'm going to save that. Alright, now what we want to do is go to our init file, which is inside the core folder, and we want to include, sorry about that, let's see, I need a PHP. Oh. Say include, actually we don't want to use include, let's use require once, because this should only be included once. Okay, and that is config / config.php. Alright, next will be our helper files, which we only have one. So require once helpers / system helper. Alright, and then we want our autoloader, which we don't really need because we only have one class, but I don't know, I like to use it anyway, so I'm going to say function __ autoload, and that's going to take in a class name. Alright, and then we're just going to require once, and it's going to be libraries / and then we want the class name. Yeah, class name, and then .php. Okay, so basically this is just going to load our database class because that's the only one we have. Okay, so that should be it for the init file. Now what I want to do is get the index page, okay, the main page here, and I'm going to go to the HTML folder that we created, and I want to get everything out of index.html. So I'm going to get all this, copy it, paste it in here. Alright, so we're not going to be using an includes folder with our header code like we've been doing, or a footer code, or templates, or views, or anything like that. Reason being, this is basically a single page application. so we don't really need, it's not like we have a bunch of files where we need to include this header. This is all we need. We're loading everything else. For instance, the contacts are coming through Ajax. This contacts PHP page is coming through Ajax. For adding and deleting and all that, we're going to use Ajax. So this is fine just to put this right in the index file. Alright, so if we save that, it's obviously just going to be a static page. We're not connecting to our CSS, which actually we should bring over now. So from the HTML template that we created, we need to implement our custom CSS file as well as foundations. So let's open up, this is our HTML folder. We also want to open up our application. And in CSS, we'll just overwrite that custom with the one we have in our HTML. Okay, let's see, what else do we need here? Images, JavaScript. Okay, we want to bring this stuff over as well. Okay, we also have our custom script file here. Now for the image folder, I have an Ajax loader that I want, so I'm going to go grab that from the finished application. Okay, so it's just this Ajax loader GIF. I'm going to paste that in. Alright, and if we go to index.php, I'm going to get rid of this HTML file. And let's see, we want to include our custom CSS is included. If we go down to the bottom, we want our custom script file included as well. So let's do that. I'm going to put it right under the jQuery. Okay, so this is script.js. Alright, make sure everything loads okay here. Actually no, I want the Chrome tool so I can see if we have any console errors. Alright, everything looks good. Add contact, the form, the modal is working. Now contacts.php, that's going to hold this, okay, the table with all the contacts, and we're going to load that through jQuery. Alright, so let's go to that index.php page, and let's see. Okay, so we don't want to grab the add contact link, which is right here, and then the modal is directly under it, which we need to keep in this page. So let's see where that ends. Okay, so it ends here. Then we have a row, 12 columns, and then the table starts. I actually want to grab from this row all the way through, grab all the tables. Alright, so let's do that. Let's grab all this. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that and then open contacts.php and paste all that in. Now down at the bottom here where we had that table, we need a div so that we can insert the content through jQuery. Okay, so we'll say main content div, we'll say div ID equals page content. Alright, and then above that I want to put the loader image. Okay, div ID loader image. Okay, and we're going to insert that image with src. It's in the image folder slash ajax slash loader dot gif. Alright, So what we're going to do is we're going to set a timeout for maybe 1 second while the content's loading, and we'll have that loader image, which gives it just a nice little display, a loading display. So let's save that. And right now, this is what we have, just the loader, because we haven't added our jQuery to actually fetch and display the contacts. Now I want this to be hidden when we go to the page, and while it's loading the contacts, I want it to show and then hide again once the contacts are loaded. So we're going to hide it through CSS. Okay, so if we go to CSS custom, and I'm just going to paste this in here. So our loader image, it's going to display none, which means it's not going to be shown. And then we're going to give it a position so that it's in the middle. All right, and let me just show you. If we just comment this, whoop, I forgot this is CSS. Need to comment this way. All right, so if we go back, now it's in the middle, okay, and we just want to hide it for now. So and maybe not. Actually, you know what? We don't need to hide it now. Actually, I don't even think we should do that. Yeah, we'll just keep it, and then when the contacts loads, it'll hide, it'll replace it. Alright, so let's go to our JavaScript script file. This is where we're going to do all our AJAX calls and things like that. Alright, so I'm going to use jQuery here, and I'm going to say document dot ready. Okay, when the document's ready, we'll run this function, and we want to show the loader image. Okay, if it's not shown. And let's see, we want the ID, loader image dot show. All right, and then we want to fetch the contacts, and I'm going to put that in a function called show contacts. Whoops. Say show contacts on page load. So that should be good. We just need to create the show contacts function. So I'm going to go out of the document.ready function, and I'm going to say function show contacts. Okay, and I just want to log to the console. Say console.log contacts. Actually, we'll just write showing contacts. Okay, and then we're simply gonna use the load function to bring it in, but I want to set a timeout, because I like the effect of the loading image, and I just want to set a timeout for 1 second. Just show it so it shows the loading real quick and then loads them in nicely. Alright, so set timeout. So what do we want to do? We want to grab the page content div. Okay, remember in the index file we have this page content div, and that's where we're going to output all the contacts. Okay, so page content dot load, and we want to load contacts dot PHP, and then we want a function which will hide the loader image. So we're going to grab the load image and say dot hide. Alright, and then the next parameter for set timeout is going to be the length of time, which will say 1000. Okay, so 1000 milliseconds. And that should do it. Let's save that. And if we reload, you can see that it sets the timeout for a second and then brings them in, which is nice. Alright, so next we will actually have the contacts PHP page be dynamic and load these contacts from the database.